was like, oh man, I totally forgot to do that. So when we're doing pogo hops, we're actually taking advantage of another characteristic of the tendon, which is the elasticity, right? And so as tendon is stretching, it's or absorbing the energy, it's storing. And if you rebound quickly enough, you're actually going to capitalize on the elasticity of the tendon and be able to use that elastic recoil. So what we need as runners and as athletes is a stiff tendon, because that's going to be able to absorb that force and recoil really powerfully. Okay, so we want stiff tendons to really take advantage of that, elastic component, of power perspective. Okay, so how do we create stiff tendons? What the research tells us is that, yeah, we can do plyometric work, right? And that can get some developedness in our tendon. But plyometric work, we have a bit of a limit at how much of it can do. There's a definite like finite amount of plyometric work that you can do before you start really beating up on your body. Right? And so another way that we get at doing, you're developing a stiff tendon is through heavy, slow resistance. Okay, and this is where we find that most endurance athletes lack, is in the strength training realm, right? And so what we do is go through tonight in ways that we can do some progressive loading for the calf muscle complex and for the hamstring muscle complex. Do you have any questions about tendons, or was there any confusion there? Awesome, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on, and so you've just been saying. So let's actually get all lying down. Do you have a chair or a couch or some elevated surface nearby? What we're going to be doing a elevated bridge. Okay. So a reason that we elevated bridges is number one, there's a lot of ways to modify it, so depending on whether people have maybe an acute irritable high hamstring tendency from doing like too much hills or too much speed work in a short period of time, a big spike in training, or maybe they're just at a bit of a lower baseline capacity. There's ways you can get pretty much anyone doing this, and there's a way that we can make this challenging enough even for higher level athletes. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be starting for first set. We're going to be start in a short position. So you'll be lying on your back, knees kind of roughly to 90 degrees, both heels on that elevated surface. What I want you to pay attention to is really digging into that surface with your heels as you elevate your hips. So you can have your arms to the side if you need a bit of balance, or you can cross them over your chest if you feel like you're able to do that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hold that for 5 seconds, okay? And then we're going to go back down. We're going to repeat for 8 to 10 reps, okay? So just to get a sense where you're all at, right? So this is the most kind of entry point for this exercise. If we want to make it a little more challenging, we can lift our knee up towards our chest, okay? By lifting our knee up towards our chest, we can mix for this to one leg, okay, which is going to make it a bit harder. But there's still a way that we can progress this a little further. So if we're around like repetition 5 or 6, you've still got a little bit. What you can try is actually, instead of bringing the knee to your chest, you can try straightening out your leg, keeping your thighs in line with one another, and then performing the bridge from there. Okay, that's a progression of the short lever heels elevated bridge. So I want you all to use the I want you all to use the chat here in there if you have any questions, okay? And so hopefully you're all sort of feeling that in the hamstrings. What we're going to do is we're going to hang out for a short period here. Just, you know, you can get yourself a little bit of rest when you're doing strength work. That may have been a little on the easier side for some of you. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually lengthen the lever arm on one. So instead of being, your heels are on the bench, okay? So you definitely do not want your abs to be fully supported, just your heels on the bench, okay? Nancy, we'll talk a little bit about how frequently and how often and how many reps and sets to incorporate this into a routine more at the end. Okay. So this version here, what we're going to do is have Dalton lengthen the lever a little bit. So we're gonna have him bring his knees to about a 120 degree bend. That looks right there, Dalton. And then what you're going to do is you're going to be digging with your heels tight through the core, elevating up. So in this version here, we can follow that same pattern. So we're going to do like a 5-second hold, okay? And we can progress this the same way that we progressed it for the short lever version. So we can start by bringing that knee up chest and doing a single leg lift, okay? Or we can even do that in a straight leg position. So if you're feeling like the single leg is about right once you're up there, you can lift yourself with 2 legs, right? So you can lift yourself up with 2 legs, and then you can hold with 1 leg, and then lower with 1 leg. So this is what we like an eccentric. This is working on only the lengthening portion of the contraction. And so that's a way you can sort of progress this exercise or regress it according to where you're at. Is everyone feeling pretty good burning their strings when they progress through to that? Dalton is cool. That's good. You missed morning workout today, so this is his payback, right? You get to be the demo guy. So the reason that we like this heels elevated bridge for them strings is because when if you watch and do another set out of these here, pay close attention to his knees, and what you're going to see is that there's not a lot of movement happening at the knees. Most of the activation, most of the force is happening up at the hip. So what we're going to do before going to the next exercise is I'm going to hop into a PDF here for you guys. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, just click on the button on share screen.
Oh yeah, yeah, nice. How do you miss that one?
Yeah.
So I'll share my screen here, and we're just going to dive down to a bit of anatomy.
We all need a Dalton.
What's that?
We all need a Dalton. Just a
demo?
Dalton the IT.
Yeah, we do definitely Dalton the IT guy. So I'm just scroll down to. Oh wait. I missed it. Right, there we are. So hamstrings, right? So backside of the thigh, right? Most people know they always flex and bend the knee. We've got 3 pieces of the hamstring, one that wraps around to the outside, 2 that wrap around into the inside. What a lot of people necessarily take attention to is that it does cross the hip, right? That's where when we have issues up in the high hamstring area where the muscle becomes tendon, attaches into that bone. Those high hamstring strings tend to be a little problematic. Oftentimes because people think about, okay, it's a tendon issue, I have to load it. So do exercises where I'm bending my knees, and that sort of misses the boat a little on loading that high hamstring preferentially. Okay, and so that's the reason that we do like one. And you can see sort of probably like a shorter duration, perhaps here, but you can see as you're kind of reaching out in front, that hamstring up at the hip is going to be really on stretch, and then it's not so much the knee portion where it's that high hamstring, that hip action that's working hard in that position, right? So that's why we care about this particular exercise. Any questions about that? No? All right, cool. So what we're going to go into next, anyone who has the sliders, you can bust those out. If you have hardwood or tile floor instead, soft feet work, but it's better to have a towel, like a handle for each of them, so that you can do some sliding. So what? Give me some back. That way I know to start with this exercise. So how easy or challenging do you find those heel elevated ridges? Were most of you doing one leg, or were most of you doing the double leg version?
You could just
Single leg. I felt single leg definitely harder, or I got more of a stretch.
Yeah, you were feeling a little bit of engagement with that. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do here,
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Go ahead, Nancy. All right. So what we're gonna do is
I think it's a.
We're going to dive into the sliders here now. So the slider is a little bit less about engaging at the hip and more knee, but it's a really great way to load up the hamstring a little bit more with a little bit more force. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to elevate the hips, both heels on slider or your towels, whatever you've got in your situation. And what we're going to do is go through a few of the progressions and regressions that you can use. So we're going to start with just a straight up eccentric where your hips are elevated. You're going to slowly slide out. We're going to do a 5-second slide out, let hips down, and then slide the heels back. Okay. Then we're going to lift back up, slide on out, and bring them back in. So that's all an eccentric, right? So he's loading only on that lifting portion. So this is a great way to kind of re-enter in hamstring loading if you've got a acute issue. But to get this a little bit more challenging, what you can do is you can do a straight slide out, slide in. So Dalton will do a couple of those, and I'm going to have him go so still on the eccentric. You can pull in powerfully, right? So you can do the eccentric portion with force, and then out the eccentric portion controlled. Okay, so a bit of aggression from here when we pull back in. So we're going to come back in, lift on up there, Dalton. And what we're going to do is you're going to stay up top position, slide your heels just a little bit there, Dalton. It's you want ankle to be sort of out from underneath your knee. And now what you're going to do, you're going to alternately slide out one leg and then the other. So the more fluid that movement becomes, i.e. when one is sliding in, the other is sliding out, the more challenging it is. The easier version is to do it like Dalton is right now, where you're just alternately sliding one in, and you're not sliding the other out until you're fully supported again. Okay. So we'll take a rest here. So we'll give it a little break. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit of work happening in the hammies. And what we're going to do next, we're going to dive into a single leg version of this. Okay. So some of our favorite hamstring exercises is like really high level people. One of our favorite movements is really Nordic hamstring curl. You don't need any equipment. You just need to find an anchor for your heels. And there's some really great progressions for that. The reason that we're not going through that particular exercise in this, we do have it in our PDF. The reason we're not going through it here is because it's not one that you are all going to be able to sort of navigate and explore right now while we're in the webinar. Okay, but if you're feeling like these exercises are a little bit on the sort of easier side for you, then I'd urge you to check out the PDF that we're going to send out to you, and and dive into those Nordic hamstring options. Okay, so get on back down onto the ground. We're going to play around with this slider again, and what we're going to do is we're going to elevate it up, and we're going to do single leg eccentric. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to start with knee to the chest, slow slide out, and then let your hips back down, bring it back in, elevate up, and slowly slide out. Good. So I'm going to have Dalton do about these. Dalton's going to be giving me high fives later for his hamstring. So if you want to progress this one, right, you can lift up, and instead of being in that bent knee position, go out into that straight leg position. Okay, so this is the eccentric. So doing the full slide out, slide in is substantially more challenging than just doing a double leg, right? So you'll definitely want to press yourself into the ground a little bit with your hands, because you are going to have a tendency to sort of pull yourself down the floor. Okay. How did that one feel in comparison, everybody? How's that left?
That was so hard.
That one's tough, right? Yeah. And so that's the cool thing, is that, like, a movement like slider board or ham curls, that very first one that we did where you just lift your hips, slid with two legs let back down and came in, you can see how we could, we could have like an octogenarian woman or man who's not active do that exercise, right? As long as they tolerate being down on the ground, right? And so it's all about finding where people's entry point is, right? And so that's going to be different for every one of you. And so that's why we're providing you with some of these options, but just kind of giving you a sense of that hey, it's easier and harder options in the same movement pattern, right? And it doesn't always necessarily be hard. You don't necessarily have active gym to be able to do, heavy deadlifts, or have kettlebells that you can do single leg or kick deadlifts or something like that, right? There's some really, really great, easy ways to get at it. Any questions about any of that at all? Have any of you tried Nordic hamstring curls before? I can quickly give you a demo by putting Dalton's ankles. He's smiling because that makes him happy. So a Nordic hamstring curl, we have Dalton a call. Okay, and basically you can either have a friend, family member pin your legs down, and then control yourself forward. So I'm solid, dude. And so little calf cramp there. Yeah, you far. That was good. Or you can kind of. I think
something would break if I did that.
It's so actually surprising. So it's a really great way for putting load through the hamstring. You don't have to go all the way down, right? So we've got lots of variation. You guys aren't able to explore and play with this right now. But it's actually there's some. It is challenging, yes, 100%. But there's some really great ways to make it a lot more accessible. So one example would be going strictly from, instead of leaning all the way forward, you just bend through the waist and come back up. It's still really challenging exercise and really targets those hammies, especially the high hamstring portion. You can see this is a really good exercise for getting at the top of the hamstring. Let go there, but that's substantially easier than that full forward lean. And you can also do short isometric holds in that version. Has anyone else tried those before? No? Yeah, you should definitely play with it, but definitely err on the conservative side with it. We've got videos attached to PDF for you to explore those ones. So what we're going to dive into next is we're going to talk a little bit about the anatomy of the calf muscle complex, and then we are going to. Is that full screen there, Dalton? Okay. That one. This. That's better. Right, and so calf muscle complex. So everybody looks at the calf muscle complex or abs, and they see, the kind of bulbous muscles on that are most superficial on the inside and the outside of the ankle, right, or of calf muscle. And so that's one of the two main muscles in the calf, called the gastroc or the gastrocnemius. But what people don't realize of the calf muscle complex, number one, that muscle also crosses the joint. Okay, so it will help to flex or bend the knee. Okay. But more importantly than that, in my mind, is that there's a deeper muscle called soleus, which does not cross the knee joint. Okay, and it's actually the bigger of the two muscles. Most people don't realize this, but it's actually the primary driver of plantar flexion in the ankle, right? And so roughly 2/3 of the muscle mass, or this like the sectional area of the calf, roughly 2/3 of it is actually the soleus. And so, to me, that makes me think that that's a really important muscle for people who are, biking or running, right? For sweep portion for in cycling, and then obviously propulsion and also force attenuation in running, right? So absorbing and controlling that force, thousands of iterations, if you're doing, an iron or an Olympic try or something like that, right? Any questions about the calf complex? So I guess another thing about the calf is that really we know from EMG studies that the calf muscle complex is actually more active. Everyone's always like glutes, and I don't disagree. Glutes are important, right? There's they've got a definitive role in weight-bearing activities, etc. But especially running community, there's a bit of a disconnect there. The importance of the calf muscle complex in propulsion and creating power. Lots of people say they have two calves.
So what I'm trying to people say, they just make assumptions like, oh, my calves are tight because I worked out too much, or my calves are tight because I wasn't kicking properly when I was swimming, or my calves are tight because I'm dehydrated. Like, everybody seems to be able to make their own diagnosis, and I think there's more to it than that, don't you?
Yeah, and I think one reason that tissues get that sort of tightness after activity is sometimes when they're maybe underpowered for activity that's being performed. There's so many reasons that the calf can feel tight. You've got really stiff, if you've got really stiff ankle bend, right? That then you're not really able to kind of move that calf muscle complex through a nice full complete range of motion through like the running, cycling, day activity patterns, right? There's lots of reasons, but I think one of the big ones, especially in athletes, is when a tissue is undertrained, right? And then when you put it through in an endurance world, you then really kind of take it to it, right? Do you have any thoughts on that, Tom?
Yeah, no. I mean, I would agree with all that. I think we always kind of look.
Yeah.
We look for like a lot of things to answer the questions, but oftentimes I think from what we experience is just under-preparedness to take on the loads required for like a high repetitive task such as running, especially when it comes to staff. If you're not prepared to take on those force tissues aren't ready to take it on, they can sometimes present themselves as stiff, which makes you feel like you want to stretch them, but oftentimes you need to prepare them to take on those muscles, which we'll show you how to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's a really good point, right? That especially in endurance athletes, and I think I referenced it at the beginning. Endurance athletes often think like, oh, I just need to do more of my particular sport to prepare my tissues better for it, and that sort of like strength, you can maybe slant a little bit, but that strength component can really make you faster, more durable, and less prone to injury, right? And so it's a pretty important piece. So specifically to the capsule complex, what we're going to do is going to start with a little bit of a test for you all. So what I want you all to do is find something to use as like a little bit of like balance. So I'm going to start out of the way here and don't use that pole, right? And so yeah, I'll aim you down. Either works. So what we're going to do is we're going to do single leg heel raises. Okay. And what I want to do a max rep test. So the key here, don't let me spin to the key here is that you're nice close to the pole. That way you can't rock your body weights. Demonstrate a bad rep there. Okay. So the body weight is sort of helping to pull that heel off the ground. Okay. So this is where I like to get people to step right in close to a wall, right? That way there's nowhere for their hips to go, but up. And so we're going to do a single leg raise test. So we're going to go up, down, right? So nice, smooth cadence here. Right, and as soon as you find yourself off short range, or your calf feels like it's going to explode, or you're not able to keep that smooth control on the descent, we'll call that an end. And so I want you all to figure out what is your pick of your calf. I don't care which is. You can kind of do both later, but I want to get some numbers out of you. I want you to let me know how many repetitions you're able to get. So another fault that we commonly see, Dalton, if you sort of scrap with the camera, another fault that we commonly see is when the ankle sort of rolls out. So instead of kind of keeping a square foot, right? Instead of keeping a square foot, it rolls out to the side. And Dalton, show a good rep there, brother. Like that. So a nice square foot. Okay.
We're good.
Yeah. How many reps did you all get? You're probably still on. You're getting like 51, 52, 120.
32.
32 too. That's a good number. Yeah. What other numbers do we hear? You can unmute yourself or throw it in the chat. I'm happy with either or. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the numbers that we like to see from a kind of injury risk action perspective. 24. All right, that's good.
What would be a good number?
I don't want to bias anybody's numbers that they're going through, so we're going to wait until we have fun responses.
Victoria's a superstar. She's a swimmer. So, and Betty, you guys got nice flippers on your ankles. All those swimmers, they have good flippers. What do you got, Betty? Betty can't unmute.
I didn't count the first side. Fair enough. Okay. Maybe,
So probably like 100.
Yeah, so what we like to see, we like to see a minimum of 30 nice clean reps. And when we see 30 nice clean reps with like nice consistent vertical displacement, right? There's no loss in vert over those 30 reps. That's just that there's you know, unless maybe you were like, didn't reach 30. And that's an opportunity, Betty, for sure. So that's something that you can definitely target and get some benefit out of, right? Depending on the athlete, right? So if we were talking about like a sprinter, or if we were talking about a jumping athlete, then I even go a bit higher than that. And what I like to see people do is get like with a portion of body weight, either on their shoulder or in their hands, getting at least 15 single leg heel raises, and it's like way harder than you would. But for general running athletes, endurance athletes, I like to see them of 30 as a guideline. Okay, so that's actually a good point I should sneak back to for the hamstring. So for the hamstring, we don't have a simple test like that we like to use. What we can get people to use, the test that we like to use is we use quad hamstring ratio. So how strong are your quadriceps relative to your hamstrings? We know quadriceps are going to be stronger. There's more muscle mass there, right? But there's the sweet spot. There's a range between 40 and 60% that we like to see people in. And so depending on whether you're like ACL deficit, or you have a ligament issue in your knee, or different sports like running, like if there's a lot of start-stop, we'd want to set ratio a little bit higher. But what we use is a force gauge that gets a peak force, right? So we're able to test what is your maximum force you're able to produce with your the front of your thigh, the back of your thigh, and we use a ratio there. Okay, so that's what we use as like injury risk reduction piece in the hamstring side of things. Any question on that at all? Cool. So we've got some numbers, and so cool thing is we're all over 15, right? And so when we talk about building strength, right? We definitely want people in a bit of a low rep range when it comes to half muscle complex, because of how it's used and the force that goes through. I sometimes like allow the rep scheme to be a little bit higher, and so we'll go over options. Obviously, like just a straight up single leg heel raise is a good option for most people. A way that you can kind of switch that a little bit is to do what we call a front foot elevated heel raise, where especially if you find yourself like losing that vertical displacement where you're not able to get your heel through a full range of motion, where you're coming up a little bit short, what you can do is you can shift your body weight forward onto that leg just a little bit as you're going up. So you can keep body weight back bottom, right? And then as you're losing that vertical displacement, you can shift body weight forward and give a little bit of assist from that. Now, what I like best about this variation, even more than that, is that add weight, right? It's really easy because you've taken balance out of the equation. That downside calf is still working super hard. So I can Dalton some weight. He can bear hug. He can hold on to dumbbells, and it doesn't take a lot of weight to make this significantly harder. So this easy way to add weight to a single leg heel raise because I'll tell you what, I don't think that Dalton would be able to do his like heel raise, holding on to that 45 without foot on that on step, because balance, right? It would just be, it's just awkward, right? And so this is a way that we can take balance of the equation and add weight to people to really build nice, strong, robust, resilient calf muscle complexes. Okay, that's a way that I really like to load the calf for people like that. So just trying to be mindful of time here. So we're coming up 15. So what we're going to do is we're gonna circle back around to that other muscle that we talked about. So we talked about the gastroc muscle, and the one that crosses the knee joint, right? So when you are doing a straight knee heel raise, like we were just doing with that front foot elevated, we are going to be targeting that muscle more so than the soleus. The soleus muscle is going to be working 100% and avoid that. But the gastroc muscle is going to be take a bunch of that burden as well. So how do we target the soleus muscle specifically? Well, we take advantage of the fact that other one crosses the knee joint, and what we do is we bend the knees. Okay, so we want to see knees bend to at least 60 degrees. Okay, in order to probably a bit like Dalton. Yeah. In order to really kind of take this is what EM studies, like when they stick needles in muscles, they tell us that like bending past 60 degrees the knees really helps to target that soleus muscle. So in this position, you can then do heel raises. So I often like to get people holding onto a pole of some sort, because again, then you don't need about the balance side of being down in that little mini squat. Okay, so a way that you make this a little more challenging is you can go from a deficit. So what that means, is going from a step, right? So you just go from a step. Now, when I see a lot of people really kind of ham way deep into ankle bend with this, right? And there's a limit to how much ankle bend is beneficial. It's somewhere from like 15 and 20 degrees. On the research, but so you don't really focus on how deep you're going, right? Really, that's kind of eliminating. When I use a deficit, what that's doing is it's eliminating that rest period at the bottom, right? So you're never getting that sort of like stop point at the bottom. Your calf muscle is always on. So doing this one, are you guys feeling it a little bit different than when you did the front elevated? Do you feel a different area of the calf?
I feel that in my quads.
Yeah, that's for sure. You'll definitely feel a quad burn. It's based on wall sit.
Okay.
So yeah, 100% you'll feel your quad muscle working, because that's what's keeping you falling on your bum.
The elevated, I felt it up higher.
In the calf.
Yeah, almost to the root of my calf. Or my hamstring. Sorry, I felt it more in my hamstring. Sorry.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's not where we'd expect it to be felt. Generally, when we get down into it, we're generally able to feel a little bit more engagement, a little bit lower in the calf, as opposed to up tall. We tend to feel it more in the gastroc. What that could be in case is it could be like that there's a bit of a compensation happening in there, right? You got to dive into that and explore some other options. Some that's just like different movement, better at targeting muscles.
Just really tight.
Yeah. I think what you could do, again, there's a bunch of different variations in PDF that we're going to send you guys. And it's something that you can kind of explore a bit, right? But certainly targeting that soleus muscle is an important piece to do. can't see your screen names. I've got it on speaker mode right now to troubleshoot that for you. But maybe after the presentation. We talked about, right, so if that was feeling easier for any of you, for this next set, what we can do is probably you don't necessarily need to use the deficit, but you can either do we'll call like a 2 up, 1 down, okay, like an eccentric where we go up on 2 and then shift our weight and slowly lower down, right? Or what we can do is we can actually straight up double leg, or just a single leg, bent knee, heel raise. So there are some other fun variations of ways to keep this, keep it interesting, loading the half muscle complex. But generally, we like the kind of KISS principle, right? Keep it simple, stupid, right? There's no need to make things more complex than they need to be, right? If you're getting bored of training the area, then sure, like throw a little spice at it. Sometimes I like to give people the creep walk just for the fun of it. But it's a good way to load the calf muscle complex as well. Why don't you demo the creeper walk? So you get on into a little mini squat, and then you keep those heels nice and high, and kind of walk away. And you can imagine why the creeper walk. Especially, you can load this up with dumbbells as well, right? So any form of weight. Got a backpack works really well if you're looking for ways to add weight to things. A backpack with like bag-sized canned goods, etc. People have emulated weights, which is nice and easy. That's one way to do it. I've got a guy actually right now. He's using 5-gallon pails, and he does his workouts outside, and he adds various amounts of sand depending on what exercise he's doing. So you got to be creative sometimes. That's really all I want to get through tonight. I think you're going to get a lot of the extra resource that went along as well, and I hope you all sort of learned a little bit about why it's important to strength training, why we like to target those 2 areas that we did in your type of athlete, and yeah, feel free to fire away with questions.
Yeah, I think what Nancy said, like, how often do you recommend doing it?
Yeah, sweet, great. I was actually, I was forgetting something. So that's great. So generally with training, Victoria, you can make improvements in strength if you do a good solid session of strength work once a week. You can make change. It's gonna be slow, but you can make change. You add a second session, spaced out accordingly, so that your body has time to recover and adapt. Because really, anytime that we're doing strength work or intense work, we're looking for adaptation. So you need body time, right? And so when you add that second session in a week, you get sort of like an exponential increase in the benefits. A third session beyond that, there's some additional benefits. But the biggest like bang your butt going 1 to 2, and then when you go to 3, like again, yeah, it's a bit better. But the research tells us that going from 1 to 2, that 2 is kind of the magic for our particular muscle group. As far as loads or sets and reps. I think generally when I'm targeting a particular muscle group, I'll often start people with so maybe I've got like 2 exercises that are targeting a muscle group. I'll often start people at about 6 total sets. And as far as if your first just sort of first starting strength training, I'd also start people in like 8 to 10 repetition range, which isn't truly strength oriented, but it'll start to get you adapted to it. And then particularly for the hamstrings, I'll often drop the repetitions more towards like 5 to 8 repetition. That's where you're really going to be getting strength adaptations, right? And the calf muscle complex, like I said, I often will allow people to be in a higher rep range as long as they're continuing to actually hit fatigue, right? It's like oftentimes people will just dose out calf raises. They'll just dose out like 3 sets of 15 repetitions, and it's like for all of you that wouldn't be enough because they're like 32 reps, 24 reps, 20 reps. You know? So like you just wouldn't get the response that you're looking for out of that, right? And so that's where being able to understand how can I make it hard, right? Going to single leg, adding a deficit, adding load. Okay, well, balance is an issue now. How do I take balance out of the equation, right? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Just to add on to that, I think it's like the intention of the exercise as well. Like it needs to be hard, especially when it comes to strength training. I think, you know, we hear to say like 5, 6 reps. It doesn't seem like a lot, right? But it's not that much volume of reps in this, but the intensity of that 5 to 6 reps needs to be hard. And I think what we see sometimes, people tend to underload or underdose themselves. So they're actually doing things that are too easy for them, which is not result in them getting the strength adaptations that they want. There's even research to show, even if we had you do more reps, like even in 10 to 12 range, as long as the intention of working really hard in those 10 to 12 reps is there, you'll get those strength adaptations that you're looking for. So I think that's one thing that we tend to see people actually underload themselves.
Yeah, I think a really great point is that sort of like making sure that it feels hard and that the rep scheme matters a little bit less for sure. And I mean, we see underloading in fields too, right? We see strength conditioning coaches underloading. We see physios and clinicians. We have professional underloading people. That's something that we really feel strongly about at the movement. It's like, you know, really looking at people, where are they at? What's their entry point? You know, what are their goals? And like, what is actually a real dosage or load that's appropriate for this person to you mean, number one, maybe get out of this discomfort. Maybe it is on the low side. Where we are, the issue is where it's just consistent dose, no matter who you are and where you're at, right? There's no sort of scaling up or down and grade for that sort of point of entry.
Anyone else have any burning questions they want to get off their chest?
This has been really informative. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, you're welcome, buddy.
That's great. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, this has been great.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, if anything ever comes up, we'd be happy to do some other stuff as well. Hopefully at some point in the future we could.
Like I'd love to come and actually meet you guys in person.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah, we're not like we're you know, we're all at the clinic masked up when like right now obviously it's Dalton and I we're kind of married now to business partners. Brother wives, yeah, but you know, if you do feel comfortable, we're happy to like have you in for a quick tour and a chat, masked up, and just when
I'm thinking more like we should come over and do like a little run, and then we can like hang out, you know, in your parking lot or something like that. Yeah,
I'd love that. That'd be great. We'd love to get a beat down from a runner.
Isn't the brewery like right down the street from you guys?
Yeah, it's like
we can see it.
Yeah, they're still open.
So, ladies and Ron, wherever Ron
I like that plan.
See, we're all about like, we got to just fit it all in.
Balance, right?
Balance. Yeah, that's how we survive, just balance. We got to work hard to enjoy.
Yeah. But that's great. Well, what we'll do is we'll, Dalton will get you a copy of the recording. He'll sort of like some of this stuff at the end and the beginning that was maybe not necessary, and you'll get a copy of it, and we'll probably we'll post it to our YouTube and give that link. I don't know. Dalton will touch, and you guys can figure it out. That sound.
Yeah. And then I'll email it everyone.
Yeah, IT don't.
PDF. So you guys will get PDF tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any questions?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Like, we really appreciate it.
No
It was
problem.
awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of great information for somebody that's fairly new to it. So for me, that was really, really helpful.
I found that it just is such a reminder for me that, I need to do more of what you're suggesting. And there's going to be so many benefits to it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I had no
thank you
idea
for your time
you could
as well.
spend an hour. I had no idea that we'd be able to spend an hour on 2 muscle groups.
Right? No, it's
But
true.
it's been good.
But it's true. It's so true. But that's the way you need to do it, to fully understand.
Yeah.
Right? Lots of people are like, okay, just do that. And then you don't know why. You don't know what the purpose of it is.
Yeah, the why is so important, right? And that's something that we like that. We do all of our visits are an hour long because the why is what's going to get people to actually follow through and understand. Wait, what do I need to do, and why do I need to do it, and how is this going to benefit me? And then people do it, and we get results, right? Other ones like, this doesn't quite feel right. Well, it can't be that important. They didn't spend much time on it, right?
Yeah, you gotta. Okay, thanks, guys.
No problem.
See you.
Wonderful day.
See you, ladies. Nice to see you, ladies. And Ron.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, have a good night. Thanks so much.
Thanks.